Hello, good evening, welcome to the show. Look, Sheffield Wednesday fans, even you will forgive us for the fact that there is only one topic of conversation this week, really only one match to consider closely over this coming weekend, and that happens to be at Bramall Lane on Saturday. Tea time, Saturday, 5:15 kickoff. Sheffield United against Ipswich Town. We always said, I think everybody said, it would go right to the wire. Well, to all intents and purposes, there's a possibility that it now won't. Chris Morgan, former Sheffield United captain, in fact, the last Sheffield United captain to lead the Blades to promotion to the Premier League, joins me. Good evening, Chris. You are such a topical guest. And looking at my Twitter timeline today, a very popular guest as well. And let's hope it's a good omen having you in the studio as well this evening, eh?
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to the weekend?
Yeah, I think you can just sense everything building up. I mean, obviously, I think everybody inside the club, I think everything will be low key, yeah, which everybody expects. I think from their point of view, the staff, the players, they just know that they've got another game at Bramall Lane and they've got to go out and win it. And Ipswich Town at home, I think offers them a good chance of going out to win the game, but you also know that a team that's already been relegated, often can offer a tough task, and so I don't think there'll be anybody counting the chickens. No. But I think last home game of the season, home game. Hopefully the sun shine out with a chance to get 3 points to put them closer to getting to the Premier League.
Yeah, I can't assume anything, and I think Chris Wilder and everybody have decided to emulate Jeff Boycott with a straight bat to every question this week. You can't blame us for trying. That obviously you're hoping to get some of that emotion that may be on view on Saturday evening at Bramall Lane. But even then, well, we'll talk about this later. Only mathematicians won't be satisfied that Sheffield United aren't promoted if they beat Ipswich. But, it's just an awkward. Do you let rip and celebrate with what would be a minimum, a 12-goal difference advantage? What do you think?
No, because I think professionalism will always kick in, and I think deep down, 3 points on Saturday. It's an 11-goal swing at the moment. Depending on what the result is on Saturday, if they get the 3 points, obviously pushes that even higher. And they always say the goal difference is worth another point. So I think on the outside, we can say, I think if there's a win on Saturday, then the club is effectively promoted.
Virtually. All those terrible words that we hate to use. Virtually, effectively, want it to be clean.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a minimum 12 difference, because a 1-0 win or a 2-1 win would make it that way. Maybe it being greedy, but if it was 3, 4 or 5-0,
yes.
You're not.
Thoughts are running away.
Yeah, all right, okay. Well, before we go deeper into all of that, here's what we'd like to see, the kind of scenes that we would like to see. All of us who are going to be there at Bramall Lane on Saturday are a bit like this. Well, this was an end of season scene. There you are at the middle of it, Morgs, holding aloft the runners-up shield for the championship season of 2005-06. There's a certain well-known manager to your left, ducking, I think, to avoid the champagne that's being poured all over everybody from the back line there. Your memories of that, Chris?
The best day of my career. I think when you look back, it was, to be captain of a promotion-winning team, after a long hard season. I think we had a little bit of a slip towards the end of that season where Leeds caught us up a little bit, and it's quite ironic that it's Leeds and Sheffield United again, and Leeds got within touching distance of us, and it just sort of spurred us on again, and it was Good Friday that we went to Cardiff, won 1-0, and then we were waiting for the Leeds Reading game on the Easter Monday, I think it were.
It's uncanny that that almost whatever result at Bramall Lane on Saturday, everybody's going to be waiting for the Leeds result the following day against Aston Villa.
Yeah, and I think it'll probably be similar. You know, I think us as a group of players, we all got together to watch the Leeds and Reading game, and I'm sure Billy will get all the lads together. You know, once they've got their 3 points on Saturday, I think he'll get the lads together, and I'm sure you know they'll all be, you know, watching in anticipation to see what happens at Ellen Road.
Well, let's just have a look at the final table for your season, how it finished in 2006. And here you are. Now, do you know, when I look back at that today, I hadn't realised that Reading had got such an astronomical total. I mean, they finished 14 points ahead of you with 106 points. There you are, second on 92. Reading had only lost 2 games all season over that 46 games. Watford, I mean, you're 11 points in front of Watford there. And as you say, Preston and Leeds United were involved there as well. But that was the finishing table. Magnificent season under Neil Warnock's management.
Yeah, he was,
What's he doing now?
Yeah, well, you know, he'll hopefully be keeping Cardiff City, or doing his best to keep Cardiff City in the Premier League.
I know, he's always involved at the end of every season, and he's still saying he's going to quit, or hinting that it might be his final season. Come on, do you believe that?
No, I think like at the end of every season, I think Sharon will talk him out of it, or he'll get another. You know, it'll be another task. It'll either be you know, trying to keep Cardiff in the Premier League again, or you know, if Cardiff end up going down, it'll be the task of, you know, can I get another promotion, and can I get Cardiff back up?
Well, he's got 8 promotions, so we're looking for 1 over the 8. But I tell you what, just before we go back to Sheffield United topics, the only thing really that's been missing from his career is keeping a club in the Premier League, and that obviously has motivated him hugely at Cardiff.
Yeah, and I think you know, they've had a few things go against them of late as well, which obviously, you know, I think we've all seen the press after the games, but you know, I think he's been right. You know, some of the decisions that have gone against them, and you know, it mirrors a couple of things that went against us. You know, when we were trying to stay in the Premier League, but I think you find that when you're towards the top of the league, and people always say that when you're at the top, things go for you, and when you're at the bottom, everything seems to go against you. You know, so but yeah, hopefully they can get the points to stay up.
We'll have a Wilder Warnock comparison in a moment. Also, maybe if you can, comparing the 2 promotion teams. But just briefly, a look at the current table. I'm not even sure we should put this up, but we will do anyway, because I think Sheffield United fans have been staring at this virtually every minute of every day since the weekend, and the twists and turns. There we are. I mean, it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that Sheffield United could actually win the Championship title all of a sudden, is it? Looking at that there, and Leeds United lurking there on 82 points. So you know, a victory for the Blades at home on Saturday should see the job through. We'll come to that in more detail, but you skippered the team of 2005-06, and it was traditional for a defender, a centre half, as you were, to be a captain. The first big call that Chris Wilder made on coming back to Bramall Lane as manager was to install Billy Sharp as captain. And I think it's fair to say there were a few eyebrows raised about that. I don't know whether you were among them at the time, but what an inspired move it's proved to be.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, obviously Billy's similar to the manager. You know, they're both blades. You know, the club means an hell of a lot to the pair of them. And you know, obviously Chris is astute. You know, Chris, he knows the game, and I think he'd got a knowledge of the players he were inheriting, and obviously he knew he'd got Billy. And you know, probably by giving Billy the captain's armband, you know, probably helped Bill as well. You know, I think it spurred him on. You know, and he's had an unbelievable season this season. You know, but in the promotion from League One as well. You know, I think he was, you know, right up there in the goal scoring. You know, I forget actually how many he got, but he was up there that
over
season.
30. I think it was over 30.
So incredible. You know, so obviously it's worked for Chris. You know, giving him, but certainly from Bill's point of view, he's been one of the main reasons of the success over the past few years.
Yeah, and he's led from the front. I mean, to quote a cliche, he really has. There aren't so many striker captains in the game, but as he said to me, sitting on that very sofa when I raised that point with him, he said, "What about Alan Shearer, one of my idols?"
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So it's worked tremendously. It'd be great, and let's hope the signs are good that he is fit to play a part in this huge game on Saturday. He's had a hamstring injury. They can take a while, can't they?
They can.
Well, you know.
It'll probably be, knowing Billy, it'll probably be having to be hung off the bone to keep him off the pitch on Saturday. I think he'll do everything he can possible to be involved. You know, because I guarantee you one thing: he's played that well all season. He will want to play in that game. You know, that theoretically could be the one that seals promotion back to the Premier League. He'll not want to miss that.
24 goals he scored this season, which is fantastic.
Incredible.
At that level, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible.
It really is. Wilder and Warnock and the two teams. Okay, I enjoyed in its entirety again one of the best football rants I've ever seen on TV or YouTube, and you were involved in it.
Yeah.
I had a look at it again yesterday just to see if we could get away with using part of it here, and there wasn't enough gap between the bleeps, so you wouldn't have. It would have just been a bleep all the way through. Yeah. He can deliver with the best of them, Neil Warnock. We know that, but I think Chris is up there in that league when it's needed. Do you not think?
Yeah, I think he will. Yeah, I think he will be. I've obviously not witnessed one of Chris's, but obviously I know some of the players. I know some of the obviously current staff, and I think he's delivered a few through his time there. You know, and you can see he's got that in him, and I think, you know, the comparison between both managers is the passion for the game and the passion certainly for Sheffield United. I think that sticks out in abundance, and I think you know, certainly when we played for Neil, you know, we as players and a team represented Neil, and certainly, you know, the current squad represent Chris.
I've never known a player that played well. I might be exaggerating here, but in my experience, I haven't known a player who's played for Neil Warnock badmouth him, you know, in any circumstance, private or otherwise. And I've had the same experience, really, talking to players who played for Chris Wilder. So despite these tornadoes that occur every so often, and I've seen what it can be like, thanks to YouTube, players still respect that kind of approach, although the modern player is less, let's say, less tolerant towards it. Maybe the modern player.
Yeah, I think possibly the after-match rants have been diluted over the years. I think possibly, you know, not being disrespectful to players of past, because obviously I've been one, but I think current players have more knowledge of the game. I think they're more analytical. I think they study the game more. I think obviously the analysis side has come in. I think more players nowadays sit down and actually watch the games back. They watch the clips, you know, as a group, as individuals, either with the coaching staff or the analyst. And I think modern players don't particularly stand for, you know, just being ranted at. And I think they get the game more, whereas probably we just used to, you know, nod his head, take it on the chin, and sort of, I'll show him, sort of thing.
Right, yeah. It's okay if it works.
Yeah.
You know, but it's got to be sparing in order to work. And I think Chris Wilder's rants have been quite sparing, but quite spectacular when needed.
Well, he's not had many needs to either, has he?
No,
really?
no,
you know, I think you know, in his spell at the club, I think a lot of it has been, you know, up and through good periods. You know, obviously, you know, through any season, there's a time when a manager has to deliver a good old-fashioned ticking off. But I think
you can say rollicking. That's okay.
Rollicking. But I think if that becomes too regular, too routine, I think it sort of washes away and it loses its effect. You know, so I think the good managers pick the times.
So, differences, comparisons between your team, an excellent team, and this excellent team now. What are the differences for you and the similarities you find?
I think similarities. Start with the similarities. I think again, you know, I think both managers instill a passion, a pride, a work ethic of playing for that red and white Sheffield United shirt. I think I've seen an hell of a lot of Sheffield United, since I've been away from the club, and that's one thing that Chris has certainly got in the team. It was one thing that Neil always had in his teams. So that is, the similarities. I think styles obviously are totally different, with Chris's formation of a back three, or overlapping centre backs, the wing backs. So I mean, obviously styles are different, and I think we had good players. We had good footballers. I think you think of your likes of, your Keith Gillespie's, your Michael Tongs, obviously, Jags in there and things like that. Michael Brown. Yeah, so we had good footballers, but just a total different playing style.
But you had the same togetherness and perhaps the same self-policing of the dressing room, because I know that that's one thing the United management now prides itself on. They feel that the dressing room polices itself. In other words, if somebody comes in and doesn't conform, it's sorted out by Billy Sharp and other senior players. Is there an element of similarity there from your time when you were captain?
100%. We had good seniors as well. I think obviously I was skipper at the time, but we've got Craig Short, we've got David Unsworth, we've got Neil Shipperley. We've got Jags, who was, he'd always got his head screwed on. He was always, sort of, in a way, a captain in the making. And, he, even though he was younger, he always had an opinion. He always liked to have an opinion on what was going on. And it was interesting last night watching the Manchester derby, listening to Graham Souness and Roy Keane. They were talking about, any squad of players is only ever as good as its seniors. And, Sam Ellis, when he was Kevin Blackwell's assistant at Sheffield United, Sam always used to, reiterate that. If ever we got a problem, he'd pull 3 or 4 of the seniors and say, right, you lot are letting the manager down. It's up to you lot to police that dressing room and make sure the problems don't get to the manager. If there's any problems that get to the manager, then the dressing room is not doing its job.
Right, that's interesting. Interesting comparison. That 12 years later, it's a very similar type of dressing room to yours. Right then. Overlapping centre backs. I'm sure that role would have been suited right down to the ground to you then, Morgs, back in the day.
Perfect.
Overlapping centre back, yeah.
Perfect. I'd have loved to have done it. Yeah, we were never allowed.
I mean, had you come across it before this? This tactic that's worked so well. It's a great tribute to the guy who really plays your role, John Egan.
Yeah.
That these guys, like Basham and O'Connell, are bombing forward. I know they get back as well, but that he's been such a kingpin there at centre half.
Well, I think he has. I think when you watch the games, John's always the one that's left at the back. He organises what's going on in front of him. Obviously the lads in front. Obviously Ollie Norwood, Flecky, Coetzee at times, Revers. They play a pivotal role as well, because they let everybody bomb on, and then when the ball comes back out, they're the ones that get back on it and get the play going again. There
was a goal at Hull where I think 2 or 3 defenders were involved in it. It's headed in by Ender Stevens. You just don't see that kind of thing. How would you have felt as centre half at Bramall Lane in your day if all the other defenders departed upfield and left you on your own at the back? What would you have thought?
Again, and you come back to styles. If you want old-fashioned, it used to be the 2 centre-backs stayed and the opposite full-back, and whichever player was developing, if it was down your right, your right back went and joined in. But it was like, if there was 2 lads up front, it was your 2 centre-backs and your opposite full-back that stayed in.
I've never seen a team with so many wingers. Flying wingers.
It's great, and I think so many teams have looked to try and stifle it and try and stop it. I think I saw Birmingham get a good 0-0 draw at Bramall Lane.
Yeah.
They came with a 4-4-2 and stopped it. And
Millwall came and changed the system and were effective, and they got a point at the end as well.
Yeah.
So, but there, in a minority. You can count them on the fingers of one hand. We've got 15 seconds left to the break. We've got lots more where this came from. We're going to talk about David McGoldrick against his former club, Ipswich. What a sensational season he's had. The kind of game it will be, and the kind of challenge that Ipswich Town might rise to at Bramall Lane on Saturday. With Chris Morgan, join us again in 5. See you then.